welcome to Developing Your Digital Framework. My name is Tim Contado, and I'm going to be the presenter today. All right. So why is your digital presence important? Well, it's important mainly because 90% of consumers research a company online even after they receive referrals. 57% of internet users won't recommend a business with a poorly designed website. 88% of online consumers are less likely to return to a website after a bad experience. And finally, 75% of consumers admit to making bad judgments on a company's credibility based on their website. So you can see, based on this feedback, why your digital presence is important moving forward. I mean, the digital marketing environment isn't in and of itself is vast and confusing, to be fair. This here is a graphic, by Martech. It was really the Martech, the landscape super graphic, the Martech 5000 at the time. It really is a Martech 8000, but who's counting, So when you look at all of the companies, that are dedicated to specific aspects of digital marketing, you can see there's a lot of them. Advertising and promotion, growing 4%. The largest one, actually, social and relationships, growing 13.7%. Commerce and sales, growing 9%, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The point here is there's a lot of companies out there that are really dedicating themselves to digital marketing. So how are you going to develop pretty much a simple framework, a simple digital framework that you can use to work with your business? In essence, developing your digital framework starts from solidifying your message. That's the first part. Once you solidified your message, then your next step really is to start looking at defining who your target market is. You then take steps to optimize message delivery through what's called owned media, and I'll discuss that later. And then you will grow your message delivery through earned media, and I can discuss that in detail later as well. Finally, as you move forward, you need to measure and augment customer conversion through your digital properties. And as with any business, as you move forward, you're going to need to reassess and pivot as necessary. Okay. So when we're talking about solidifying your message, the key here really is to start, at some point and write down your positioning statement. In a summary, what you want to be able to do is answer these 5 questions. Who is your customer? What product or service are you offering? And then what makes you different and better than your competitors? Finally, why is your promise credible? And why should your customer care? Yeah, who is that? Can they go on mute? Yeah. And why should your customer care?
Why should your customer care?
The key for all of this is you certainly want to make your messaging stick, okay? An example of that would be for Nexus, for example. Who is it for? It is for women with dry, frizzy hair. What is it? It's a shampoo from Nexus, New York. What does it do? It replenishes hair from deep within. Why should we believe their claims? Because it's uniquely formulated with pure elastin protein, et cetera, et cetera. Why should we care? That way your hair is frizz-free and so smooth that it moves beautifully. Do you see what I'm trying to say? You're able to get all of this into a statement that you can deliver in less than 15 seconds. And as an exercise for all of this, I'd like everybody, as you go through this part, when I say write your positioning statement, I want to make sure you do that. And here's an exercise that I want to run. Kendra, you want to go ahead with this for the poll?
Yes, I do. Oh, I'm sorry, the poll is not working. Apologies.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's see. Oh, actually, no, I can do it. I can go ahead and launch the poll. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll, and I want everybody to look at this and count how many Fs you see in this box. Okay. I'll give it another 10 seconds. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. We've got quite a few votes per se. All right. And I'm ending the poll presently. All right. So here you are. This is the result, of how many Fs people see in the box. As you can see, some people say 2, or one person said 2, one person said 3. A few of you said 4, one person said 5, and one person said 6. All right. the key as you're looking through this is to understand, okay, that there are 6 F's in this box, okay? And the reason I run this exercise, okay, is to help everybody remember that you know your message. Therefore, it's fine, it's easy to skip. The key from my perspective is to make sure that you write your positioning statement down. You already know what it is, but deliver that written positioning statement to somebody else and have them repeat it back to you. If they are not repeating what you need to hear back, then you need to rewrite your message, okay? Because the key from your perspective is to make sure that you are not making these kinds of mistakes, assuming you're reading something into it, okay? The other thing also as you're moving forward is make sure that you understand who your target consumer is. As you can see in these pictures, you want to go to the watering hole where your prey are gathering. And in this picture here down at the bottom, you certainly want to go and put your bait and hook in where the fish are biting. You don't want to be this guy right here, okay? A quick illustration that I'd like to give as an example of this is, if you think about it, how many beer commercials do you see in a soap opera? And conversely, how many Palmolive ads will you see in an NFL game? Exactly, right? Not many, if any at all. The key from this perspective, I mean, is if multi-million-dollar companies are very careful about where they place their message, how much more so for those of us who don't have access to millions of dollars of funding?
Oh, Tim,
right.
please close the poll.
Oh, is it
Apparently
closed?
it's still showing.
Is it still up?
You have to click the close poll button.
Close poll, I'm sorry, yeah, close. It was still up, yeah. Okay, there he goes. Is it closed now? Is it closed?
Yes, I think it's closed.
All right. So, yeah, my point was, back over to this, talking about the animals and making sure that you're targeting your clients and making sure that your messaging is going right in front of them. Okay. So one more thing that I certainly want everybody to understand
Tim,
is
it is not closed.
What? It's not closed. Why?
It's not closed.
Hang on. Okay, click sharing. Okay, I basically just stop share results.
Stop sharing.
Yeah, okay, that one. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, is that closed now?
Yes, people say it's closed for them. It's
closed now. Okay, all right. Sorry about that, folks. Kendra normally runs this in this particular case. I'm the one who do it, so that's my fault. I appreciate it. In any case, the key is to understand, all right? You remember when I had asked about, the 5 questions for the Nexus shampoo. In any case, what ended up happening was by creating that positioning statement, I defined, at least myself initially, some characteristics of what would determine the buying factors for a consumer who wants to buy shampoo. I just said price, salon quality, frizz-free, brand name, fragrance, accessibility, and then ingredients. I mean, I made these up, to be fair, right? But you can and you should do that for your product and or your services. What are the buying factors that consumers are going to be considering before they buy your product or service? Then what I want you to do is to think of 4 customers, okay, 4 customer profiles, and rank those buying factors according to how you believe a specific customer would rank them. In my particular case, randomly, I'm saying that customer A would rank salon quality, brand name, and fragrance highest, which means from their standpoint, accessibility and price would be least important. Much like on the other side, okay, much like on the other side, I've got, a customer who says price and accessibility are most important, okay, which means that from their perspective, brand name and salon quality would be least important of all, okay? So somebody asked me to go back to this, all right? So as you can see, when I was looking at this positioning statement, I was thinking of, people are going to look for dry, frizzy hair, okay? They want to know, whether or not, what are the ingredients? They want to make sure it's frizz-free and smooth. And then I made up the points, obviously, about price, accessibility, and fragrance. Okay, just like here. So now you can understand that from my perspective, and this is just my minor understanding of what I presume a customer base would look for when looking at shampoos. For groups, okay, that would look to buy it based on this ranking, of the factors. Because we have to understand that in the end, for your target customer, there's going to be some customers who will always buy from you, right? Just like there will be some customers who will likely buy from you, okay? And then there's also going to be other customers, okay, who will seldom buy from you. Finally, there are going to be some customers who will never buy from you, okay? The key then, from your perspective, is when you look through this, which of these customers go into which of these buckets? Because the key from your standpoint is you have to understand that your target is going to be this target right here, the customers who are most likely to buy from you. The customers who will always buy from you, that's fine. You know, they're already going to buy from you anyway. The key from your standpoint is when you look at how big this part of the bell curve is, this is your ideal target. Once you have achieved maximum market share with these customers, then you start looking at the messaging that you need to rejigger and reposition so that you can bring some of these people over to buy from you, okay? Once you have now understood theoretically your target customer, now you have to select the social media channel to reach your target with your messaging. Now, it isn't as difficult as this, you don't really need to sweat it out, because the key aspect from your standpoint really is to determine which of these social media channels are you able to utilize comfortably. Which one can you spend time on comfortably? Okay, so that it's not a big bother from your standpoint. Because the moment you start engaging with a social media channel, you have to do it in a way that's natural and organic to you as a business owner. And one, that at least from your perspective, wouldn't take that much effort to update, and to keep on top of. When you look at these social media channels, the ones that are video driven are obviously YouTube. Okay, image driven would be Instagram, and Pinterest. LinkedIn is for professionals, basically, conversations based on Twitter, and then Facebook for relationship driving. Okay, for the youth, generally there's Snapchat. And then if you're thinking about services, one thing that was too new for me to be able to put in here, okay, is a platform called Clubhouse that I think everybody should try to look at getting into. Clubhouse right now is a platform that's it's still very difficult to monetize because people aren't really understanding, how you can monetize it. But it's a great engagement site, especially for anybody who is in a service or a business service, to be able to join, specific clubs, but even more importantly, to make sure that your profile, your Clubhouse profile reflects, the expertise that you want people to know about you so that they can start following you on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, et cetera, okay? So the key from your perspective is select the right social media channel to reach your target with your messaging. Okay? Because you have to understand, all right, that the social media journey, or really the digital marketing consumer journey, is actually a long way of going through what's a truncated buyer's journey, which is AIDA, okay? AIDA stands for awareness, interest, desire, and action. In other words, people need to be aware of your product and service before they become interested, before they desire it, before they take an action to buy it. Okay, that's pretty much the simplified way of consumer behavior, following a funnel like AIDA. But the truth of the matter is, from a digital marketing consumer's perspective, you need to be looking at targeting your consumers in a way that you can make a stranger into a passerby to your website or to your social media channels. And then from a passerby to a visitor, once they become a visitor, you have to make sure that they stay to become lurkers, and then eventually incentivizing them to become customers, and then really building loyalty with them, so much so that the customers become your advocates and fans and start recruiting customers to you. Okay. Another way of looking at it, okay, is something like this: from strangers through to promoters, as it says. The key then is, in order to attract them, you can think about blogging, keywords, social publishing, okay? And then once they are actually visitors to your website, making sure that you've got the right amount of forms, they're well designed and written, calls to action are clear, and a good targeted landing page to move them, okay, into leads, theoretically, so that once they're leads, then with good CRM, with an email and workflow and a drip campaign, you can hopefully turn them into customers. And then once they're customers, with good surveys and feedback mechanisms, smart content, social marketing, groups, Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, et cetera, where you keep, a tribe around you, you hopefully can then, delight your customers and turn them into promoters. because this journey, despite it all, is applicable to e-commerce as well, okay? Now, when we look at this whole environment, the truth of the matter is there is no silver bullet in digital marketing, okay? Because what we have to be able to do is we have to be able to use an assortment of tools in order to build a relationship with our target customers. Many times as a SCORE mentor, I've had clients come up to me and ask me whether or not they should use advertising because they had used whatever, Facebook advertising, Google AdWords, et cetera. And from their standpoint, as they would say, the ROI, didn't justify the expense. And so I asked them what the ROI was. Well, they said, basically when they ran Facebook ads, they didn't get any sales. But the truth of the matter is, when you expect an ad to deliver sales for you, that's sort of like asking somebody out to dinner and then asking them to marry you straight away. Okay, you cannot expect an advertisement to deliver the goods from that perspective. The ROI of an ad should be to bring a person to your webpage, to convert a stranger into a passerby. And then you use tools within your webpage to deliver the next ROIs for the next step in the process. Do you see what I'm trying to say? It's very difficult, if not unreasonable, to expect your ads to deliver the sales all the way down, because you can't expect one tool to achieve all of this. It's a relationship, what you have to deliver and what you have to build with your target customers. It's sort of like dating, if you would. You just need to make sure that you are building a relationship with your target customers. And before you do that, you certainly want to take a moment to look at the digital marketing environment and understand that digital marketing per se, is built up into 3 platforms. Okay, there is owned media, okay, there is earned media, and there is paid media. Right? Owned media essentially are your web properties, like your websites, mobile sites, blog sites, and your social media channels. Okay, your earned media are pretty much anything that that mentions your website, shares, reposts, and reviews. Essentially backlinks or anything that brings notice from the outside to your own media. Then of course, paid media is where you go in with advertising to pay per click, through display ads, retargeting, paying influencers, and so forth. Essentially, paid media is an aspect wherein money has to leave your pocket to try to bring, viewers and exposure in. As you can see over here, SEO and brand content, can pretty much drive earned media by sharing, okay? And then the key from your standpoint is to propel sharing and engagement with paid promotion, but that comes much, much later on. The truth of the matter is, as a SCORE client, or from my perspective, as a SCORE mentor, we really like to focus on owned and earned medias, okay, elements, mainly because the main investment is time and effort, and they're predominantly free to low-cost elements to employ, at the start. As many times as I have clients come to me wanting to talk about, whether or not they should pay for Facebook ads, Google ads, or what have you, we certainly can address those concerns just from a feasibility standpoint. But that comes much, much later on, after we have discussed owned and earned elements and made sure that my clients have optimized said areas with respect to owned and earned. Okay. What about owned and earned media? Well, the saying, if you build it, they will come. That just is not enough in digital marketing. Just because you build a website doesn't necessarily mean people are going to come and visit you. You have to make your website easier to find, okay, meaning the owned aspects. And then you have to get other people to talk about your website, meaning the earned media aspects, okay, so that you get the exposure. Because if we look at SEO Success Basics, SEO means search engine optimization. And as technical as the term is, let's really boil it down to the basics. And the basics are commonsensical in essence, all right? It's really the key for everybody is to realize what the goals and the objectives of search engines are, okay? And that is to deliver the best websites that address, searchers' needs and wants. That is really it. Now, they make money on advertising on the side and so forth, right? But if if a search engine does not actually deliver the results that you're looking for, you start using another search engine. For example, as much as I've tried all of these search engines, I have to say that I am really, really partial to Google. I do DuckDuckGo just only because if I want to hide my information, I'll go for the anonymity of it. But in my experience, any of these other search engines have been for me very unsuccessful, okay? Because the key from this perspective in delivering the best websites, now even I've actually got a virus that automatically makes Yahoo my search engine, which I really, really hate and dislike. But every time it pops up, I actually just get off it and ask for Google itself. Now, from that perspective, you can understand that's not what they want. They want people, okay, to understand that when you use their search engine, they're delivering the best website possible. That has a huge impact on many aspects of your website development and properties. For example, the content, the architecture, ease of navigation, but even more importantly, does your website do what you purport it does, okay? So if we understand what the key objectives are of search engines, without polling, I can just ask a rhetorical question here from one perspective. Which websites do you believe a Google, an Ask, a Yahoo, a Bing would favor more highly? A website that's updated once a year or a website that's updated once a quarter? It's pretty straightforward, isn't it? The website that's updated once a quarter. That's the first one. Which website do you believe, okay, a Google, a Yahoo, a Bing would favor more, a website that has a lot of referrals, people talking about it, or a website that is pretty much an island on its own without anyone speaking about it? And again, pretty straightforward, isn't it? I mean, once you start thinking about it with respect to content, architecture, ease of navigation, which website do you believe a Google, Yahoo, or Bing would feature more highly? A website that loads poorly or a website that loads quickly? Okay, that people then just click on, a variety of pages and get the information they want. It's all pretty straightforward, folks. Once you realize what the key goal and objective of a search engine, okay, is, the more satisfied the searcher, the higher you will rank. Okay, all of the technical, jargon that you hear really drives down to these objectives in the end. Okay, because this is how search works. Okay, essentially, automated programs, search for new and updated web pages. They'll then store those pages in a big list that they will examine later. And the main method to identify what URLs to follow is actually through links from pages that Google already recognizes. This is very important, okay? Because after that, the spiders then revisit the crawled pages to index it. They try to analyze the content, the images, the videos, and the video files. The key is then to understand what is the purpose of that website based on their analysis of the content, the images, and the video files. That information then is stored in a Google index, okay, which is a huge database, obviously stored across many computers throughout the web, okay, because the final result is then it will rank it, okay. It will then pull all of that information together and develop a SERP, a search engine results page, that will then be delivered to a searcher in the attempts to deliver the best possible page for that searcher's intent. All right, based on this, the first part, it will crawl, it will index, and then finally it will rank. Okay, but the indexing is going to be a big part of SEO from your standpoint, because your first customer, as an entrepreneur with a digital presence, with a website, is the Google spider, right? I mean, and so a big part of it really is you need to understand, how do I make sure that a Google spider, a machine, okay, programming, language, algorithm, coming to my website understands what my website is about, so that when a person is searching for my specific topic, the Google spider is going to be comfortable offering me up on a SERP, on a search engine's result page. Okay? Because the big three rank factors in Google are basically on-page optimization, authority backlinks. Remember what I said about backlinks earlier? Okay. On-page optimization is just making sure that it's easy for the spider to understand what your page is about. Authority backlinks is essentially the earned aspects. Mystery factors are really what Google has called core web vitals, okay, which essentially is a visitor's experience when they come to your website. The less pop-ups, making sure that websites load quickly, making sure that you're mobile optimized, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those all fall into mystery factors. Overall, there are easily over 200 factors that are considered in order to determine whether or not your website, after it's been indexed, fits the searcher's needs, okay, and wants. Okay. Major ranking factors then from one standpoint, okay, are, I mentioned backlinks, okay, making sure that people are talking about your web page, mentioning it, backlinking to it. Semantic saturation, okay, which is how many keywords are you using, making sure you have a lot of copy to describe what your website is about. HTML tags, okay, which are titles, alt text for images. Alt text, all right, is computer code to define what your image is for a Google Spider. Since Google Spiders can right now only read text, they tend to skip over images. If you don't alt tag or alt text your image, when a person does an image search, your image for your website is not going to show up. Okay. So the best example for when you are going to be alt tagging images on your website, first thing is describe it as you would describe the image to a blind person, and then dash, and then put the name of your company right next to it. That way, when a person does a Google search, your image will show up, but then it's also branded for your company right next to that. All right. There is Core Web Vitals, which talks about the user experience and protection metrics. I was talking about load times, making sure it's mobile friendly. Okay, is it safe browsing? Meaning, is your website an HTTPS? Do you have an SSL certificate? Okay, that's going to be a very, very key component moving forward. Another part is user behavior when they come to your website. Okay, what is the click-through rate? How involved, how engaged are people when they come to your website? What are the bounce rates when people come to your website? Okay. A bounce rate is the percentage of visitors and the percentage of sessions, okay, wherein a person doesn't click on a page. And a session in Google is 30 minutes. So for example, for one session, if I come into a website, scorenewyorkcity.com or .org, okay, and I click on it, and then 30 minutes go by, and because my doorbell rings and I have to go get the door, the 30 minutes go by and I didn't click on something, that's a bounce. I come back in at minute 31 and click on something, that second session is not a bounce session. You see what I'm trying to say? So the key here is really for Google to understand how engaged are people with your website? What are they clicking on? Are they actually looking at stuff beyond just what's on the first page? The session depth, okay, refers to how many pages per visit are they looking through. Session duration is obviously how long they tend to stay on your website, etc. Okay. Then the other parts are really structured data, which really is just programming that helps crawlers understand your content better. And that comes down to XML sitemaps and so forth, things that can be talked about much later on, but initially not as addressable as the top areas. Okay. Then there is your Google My Business listing. Now, I'm going to theoretically, I don't know how many participants we have on this call, on this session, but I'm going to quote unquote require everybody to get your Google My Business listing, okay? And then everybody certainly needs to make sure that their website is mobile optimized. Okay. Another set of factors for on-page optimization, okay, is making sure that you are using good keywords and that your website address, okay, shows the keywords for particular pages as needed. Okay. Make sure, like I was just saying, that the architecture is sound. Okay. That your URLs, okay, are short and not gobbledygook. Okay. Characters that theoretically can be read easily enough. You want to optimize your images. I talked about alt tagging pretty much. There you go. And just make sure that you're using JPEGs, okay, or JPEGs, yeah. And then just make sure also that you're balancing load speed with the image size, for your images for optimization, okay? In order for you to improve your page load speeds, go ahead and Google Page Speed Insights tool, which is a free Google tool, okay, that tells you how quickly your pages are loading. Because what you certainly want to do as you move forward also is every time you update your web page, then you certainly want to make sure that Google knows that. And that's through Google Search Console, which can be another discussion later on. Outside of that, essentially, if you just update your publishing data, okay, usually it takes about a month or two for your website to be crawled again. It inevitably happens. Okay. And like I mentioned before, you just want to certainly make sure that your website is mobile optimized. Now, there's a good way to get your website mobile optimized, which is to click, the box in Squarespace, WordPress, and Wix, etc., which automatically, quote unquote, optimizes your web page, for mobile. And another thing, okay, which is another step you may consider doing, it has its pros and cons, okay, is to actually activate an AMP, or an accelerated mobile platform, okay, which is it's basically open source code that you can activate on your website to, again, get rid of things that can slow down mobile optimization. Okay. Not necessary, but a good consideration moving forward. So here would be an example of a perfectly optimized page. As we look at it, okay, the title is clear-cut, chocolate donuts from Mary's Bakery, okay. The description is clear-cut as well, 3 secrets to an award-winning formula. The URL, we know that it's chocolate donuts, okay, it's not computer code. There are no impediments to the search crawlers. It's built to be shared, so you've got all the social media share tags or images right here. Okay, the content pretty much is valuable, and it really gives readers a good idea of what is on this web page. Okay. The user experience is great. Okay, the keywords that are being used are very targeted. Okay, multiples device ready. Okay, and then in this particular case, it's just making sure that the authorship, and any descriptions, okay, for the computer, all right, is clear cut so that the spider knows what this website is about. This pretty much all takes care of owned, all right? Just making sure that your website is as optimized as possible. When I think of SEO,
yeah, what is the AR for mobile optimization? You said AR on the previous page.
Did I say something? I said AMP for mobile optimization, which is accelerated mobile platform.
Thanks.
Yeah, okay. So that takes care, at least, of the owned elements. And when I think of SEO from an owned standpoint, I sort of visualize it like, taking care of your car, making sure that the oil is right, and making sure that your tires, have the right amount of air, making sure that your brakes are good. It's really just to make sure that your vehicle can run smoothly. All right, that's essentially what a big part of what I discussed was earlier. The key here now with respect to backlink strategy is looking to see what can you do to try to actually get more people to mention your web page, to mention your site moving forward. Okay. Your first option, okay, is to really think about creating guest articles, really quick snippets. If you are a tax preparer, one thing you can do is consider the 5 key things that you need to put together before tax season starts. Okay. Go ahead and write a quick article or blog about that. Then look for influencers, okay, whose followers would benefit from that information, and submit your article or your blog to them to post on their website. Of course, once you do that, you'll have a backlink to your website. So the moment they post it, you already get the attribution. Okay. That's one in submitting guest articles. Whatever guest article you can write, there's a good chance you can make an infographics for as well. In order to create infographics for free, there was a program, Canva, okay, canva.com, okay, which has a free service that allows you to create infographics. Again, from my perspective, and even more importantly from yours, you want to be thinking about what is information that I can deliver to people, okay, so that when they share it, their customers and their followers will find it valuable. The key from your perspective is to be able to do that. It's usually 4 things that you could use, 5 things that you could use to do something better or faster. Number 3, okay, is creating roundup posts. For those of you who have services, okay, this is actually not a bad idea. What this requires you to do is to get together with your competitors, okay, or with people who are servicing the same clients as yours, and have pretty much like a fireside chat or an open table with them. Sit down and discuss the issues that the 3 of you or the 4 of you, whatever, are encountering. So for example, if we have a tax preparer service, right? Then I get 3 or 4 of my competitors, and we have this quote unquote Zoom fireside chat, all right? And our discussion is, how did COVID affect, the tax preparation service? What do we need to do to overcome those challenges that had, come up? And then each of the participants gives their perspective, they give their opinion, You, of course, as the person who is creating this roundup post, is writing it all down. And you will create a post. You will put your name and your backlink onto that article, as well as your competitors' names and backlinks into the same blog, same article, okay? And then you will send that blog to them, okay, as well as distribute it yourself. Do you understand? You see, so this is if you just do it yourself, but all of a sudden you're now sending it to them and they're sending it out. So these just grow, okay? And all of a sudden your exposure increases. So that's pretty much what creating roundup posts is. You can be active on forums, okay? Look to answer questions on Quora or Reddit, okay? Look into competitor backlinks, okay? There are two programs that you can use. One is called SpyFu, SPYFU.com, and another is Alexa.com, ALEXA.com. Okay? The key from that standpoint is go ahead, use those two programs, okay, or those two websites, and enter in the names of your competitors into those websites, all right? Once you've run the analysis, close to the bottom of SpyFu and Alexa, they will have a list of backlinks to your competitors. Okay? Now, the interesting thing about SpyFu and Alexa is they do have a premium package, and that's usually good, for a week. So what I suggest you do is you go ahead and sign up for the free week of the premium package, do all of your research in 5 days, and then sign off. Okay? That way you get all of the benefits of the premium package without having to pay for it, even after that first week. All right? So that's how you look into your competitor backlinks. Now you've found your competitor's backlinks. What does that mean for you? It basically means that you look for the author, the blogger, the journalist. Okay? You can either follow them on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, or what have you. Okay? And look to develop a relationship with them moving forward. It also gives you an opportunity then to pitch them much later on once a relationship has been developed. Okay. You can look at number 6, you can look at converting unlinked mentions. And that essentially is creating a Google Alerts, okay, for your business, okay, or your service. Okay. When a Google Alert comes up, okay, then that gives you an opportunity to reach out to the blogger, the journalist, or the reporter, okay, to either to give you a backlink or to know that you exist, okay, so that they can interview you later on. And actually, given what I said for number 6, I'm going to jump to number 8. Because number 8 is essentially, I'm going to ask you all can sign up for a website, and it's called helpareporter.com. Essentially what it is you go ahead, type down helpareporter.com, okay, and sign up as a source, okay. When you sign up as a source for Help a Reporter, what happens is Help a Reporter sends 3 emails a day from Monday to Friday with questions from reporters around the world, okay. If a reporter asks a question that you can answer as an expert in your particular field, get in touch with that reporter and you get interviewed and get stated and cited as an expert in this particular topic, okay? You also obviously will engage on social media, and that would be Facebook, Clubhouse, Instagram, LinkedIn for a lot of you, okay? But the key, at least in engaging on social media, is really look for groups, okay, in which you can be a part, both to contribute, okay, and also, if anything, just to highlight your expertise, okay? One more thing, at least for converting unlinked mentions, there is another tool that you can use, and it's called If This Then That, or IFTTT.com, all right? Essentially what you do when you join If This Then That, IFTTT.com, okay? It's basically if this, then that. So what you can do, right, is you can create triggers. A particular trigger that I use for my clients a lot is a Twitter trigger, for example. And the trigger is, for every time a tweet shows up for a given topic of my client, I want that trigger to activate and to email me, okay, when that tweet comes up. So inevitably, every time I've done this with my clients, usually in about 1.5 to 2 hours, I'll get 150 to 200 emails. And I set up actually a separate email address for whenever I run If This Then That's, IFTTT.com, okay? Because what ends up happening is all of a sudden, I'll get 150 emails or 200 emails about that specific topic. Usually of that number, maybe 10 to 15 are relevant to the needs of my client, all right? But if you are willing to at least go out there and see who's interested in talking about something that you're interested in or a service that you offer, then at least you can either engage with them on Twitter, but you just now know that you're in the conversation with them. All right. So other ways, that you can actually increase your earned media effectiveness. You can start look at influencers, okay, UCG, which is essentially user-generated content from your perspective. You can secure positive customer reviews. Okay, there of course is PR activity, but that's a decent amount of work. I mentioned Clubhouse earlier, and then create groups in Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. Okay, let me just quickly go back and talk a little bit about influencers. Okay, for influencers, the number of followers isn't as important as the engagement of said followers with the influencer, okay, that you're targeting. The other thing also is to make sure that the influencer that you're targeting is actually in a field that correlates very strongly with what you're trying to do. I have a client, for example, who looks at, who are selling microgreen kitchens. Okay, these are the small, small green kitchens or microgreen gardens, sorry, that you can put into kitchens and so forth. And he was, he got some reach, some outreach from these fashion influencers. Okay, they had whatever 100,000 followers, et cetera, and they were asking for money for my clients, microgreen kitchens, right, to get some exposure from these fashion people. It made no sense from our perspective. And so what I told my clients to do was to go into Instagram, do a hashtag search on microgreens, and when they did, to look for the specific number of posts, right? And then even more importantly, when they found the post, really look at the engagement levels of the specific posts, and then go and investigate those influencers and see if it makes sense, if there's a fit between your brand and what they're doing. When they do that, then you can approach the influencer and have a discussion about how you and they hopefully can move forward to promote, this very topic that both of you are passionate about. Sometimes you can do it without actually having to pay, okay, if the influencer that you pick is the right one. All right. Now, I had mentioned earlier about mystery factors, which essentially are core web vitals, Google Web Vitals. Really, it's really down to a better page experience, just making sure that, you show up on mobile devices, that you have told Google where you are so that proximity searches and navigational searches are things wherein you show up, okay? The key then, another way really that after all of this stuff that you want to certainly do is you want to claim your Google My Business account. And that's free for everybody, all right? It's really just a matter of Googling, Google My Business. And once you've got it, you go ahead, you sign in, okay? Or you manage now and create pretty much your Google My Business account. How do you know if a business has a Google My Business account, if they've claimed it? If this shows up, they have claimed it when you Google a business. If you Google a business and this doesn't show up, that means they have not claimed their Google My Business account, all right? The key here is you can see all the meta tags and the keywords make sense. So when a person looks at the website, they know what it's all about. But even more importantly, for Google My Business, when you set up your Google My Business account, actively search for Google My Business reviews, okay? I mean, Yelp reviews are good, Facebook reviews are good, LinkedIn reviews are good. But if you think about it, again, with respect to the search engine's goals, which reviews would have more weight on Google? Google reviews or Facebook reviews, right? So from this perspective, once you set up your Google My Business account, make sure you drive to get positive, 4 or 5-star reviews on Google My Business. Okay? The next step from your perspective is to create and claim all your free business profiles on as many social media platforms as applicable from your standpoint. Claim your free business listings in free business listing sites like Yellow Pages, like Yelp, Angie's List, Manta, City Search, industry directories, Google Business, Bing Business, Yahoo Business, etc. Just claim your free business listing. What's going to happen, of course, is when you sign up for Yelp, they're going to bug you, right, to advertise with them. That's not necessary. The main reason you want to get here is just because you want to put your listing on there so that you get the backlink back to your website, all right? And once you do that, make sure that you are consistent, accurate, okay, that you are descriptive of your business, add obviously your website link, okay, and note all your social media IDs, okay. If you don't backlink to yourself, then who's going to do that, right? So we at least have to start from our perspective. Get as many websites out there talking about your business with your backlinks. And when you do that, make sure that when I say consistent and accurate, I mean consistent and accurate. I don't mean type out avenue in one place and type it out AVE period in another, okay? Even though the spiders know what the difference is, it's just sloppy, folks. Just make it accurate and consistent across the board, okay? Now, I talked about the e-commerce applicability of your digital journey. The key from your standpoint, I now bring people to my website, but honestly, from our perspective, can I convert, or from your perspective, can you really convert at least 1% of your visitors, to a purchase or to a contact? Well, the key from this standpoint is, how do you measure that? How do you know, right? So make sure that you measure your customer journey on your website through Google Analytics, all right? Everybody can get certified on Google Analytics for free, okay? And it's a free course. It doesn't take long actually to get certified on basic. And you need an 80% passing grade on each of the 4 sections. And that's actually not that hard, because you can take the test over and over again until you pass. Okay? Now this, I mentioned over here, all right, A, B, C. These are the ABCs of Google Analytics, which is acquisition, behavior, and conversion. In acquisition, okay, when you go onto Google Analytics, you find out where are people coming from, okay, when they visit my website. This, by the way, is the Google Merchandise Store for the week of October 11 to October 17 last year, all right? So as you can see, the majority of their visitors are actually just typing in the address, Google Merchandise, what have you. Organic search is how many people are clicking through the website because of Bing, Yahoo, okay, and AOL. Referral, okay, talks to backlinks. Affiliates, all right, are people that, that have affiliate codes. Display is through ads, as is paid search. And then social is obviously social, okay? So this is a great way to track how people are visiting a particular website and the source from where they're coming. Okay? That helps you track the effectiveness of your acquisition strategy. Then the B part is behavior. When people come to my website, what pages do they go to? When they go to the starting page, how many come in? How many leave? The ones who come in, where do they go to? Of the ones who come in, how many then leave, okay? And that's all fine, because the key, obviously from your perspective, is you want to find out what your conversion factor is for your visitors all the way down to your cart, or for those of you who are in services, to the contact me page. In other words, visualize how this could work for you. If I'm in an e-commerce business, this number of visitors came in, 2,300 people added an item to a cart, but goodness, folks, look, almost 2,000 left. Of the 352 who went to billing and shipping, 150 left. Of these 202, 163 left. The Google Merchandise Store has some issues here, that they need to address, because you certainly don't want to be losing this many people in these parts of the cycles, right? So what do you do once you've analyzed these, all right? Well, what you need to do then is you need to get, pretty much a web usability checklist, okay? You can test run your website by doing back of envelope testing, okay, which is asking somebody to go through it and watch them. But then you can also use a program like Hotjar, okay, which you can use for free. And what Hotjar gives you is heat maps, recordings, okay, polls and surveys, all right? So this is what you need to do. You go ahead to Hotjar. If you want, you can use this code, which by the way is my affiliate code. Okay, when you go into this, you find the right plan for your site, okay? You go into pricing, yeah, you go into pricing, and then once you go into pricing, you go into personal, go free forever, all right? And then this is what you get from Hotjar. You can see over here, you'll see where the clicks are, okay? Then you also see the scroll map, okay? You'll understand what percentage of visitors are visiting what part of a website. Okay? In this particular case, this client needed people to understand that she had blog articles, okay? But what was happening was 50% of the people were scrolling down to the point where the blog articles were. So she redesigned the website 10 days later. And after she redesigned it, the clicks went up 3.3 points. The mobile taps went up 25 points. The website bounce rate went down 13 points, and the average pages per session went up 0.2 pages per session. Do you see what I'm trying to say? The key was we used not only the data from Google Analytics, but the data from Hotjar, which is free, to help us determine how to design the website to get the actions that we need, all right? So, let me pull all of this together. In the end, Here are 8 steps for all of you to gain online web visibility. Obviously, the first one, get your name and your host. I mentioned before, list your website on as many maps as possible and pretty much on any citing sources as possible, right? Claim your Google My Business account. List your site consistently on all free directories and social media platforms applicable with backlinks back to your website. Get an SSL certificate, or make sure that you have, an HTTPS address. If you don't, then get an SSL certificate for free for 1 year. Ensure that your website is mobile friendly. Okay. Verify that your website has been crawled and indexed. Okay. So in Google, just type site, okay, and your website. Okay. It will show you if, it will tell you your website has not been, indexed by Google, which means from your perspective, either you have to go into Google Search Console to get it, or you just need to wait. Okay. Get Google Analytics. Okay. Get Hotjar, like I was mentioning, the personal, basic, free forever, and then really try to generate as many backlinks as strategically feasible.